Welcome back to my channel. My name is Jessica Johnson. I'm the author of Shine Bright, Discover Your Message, Build Confidence, Sharing, and Make a Difference. And my first book, Your Bright Life, which is about getting clear on what you want, overcoming self-doubt, and bringing your dreams to life. So today I want to share chapter 9, a little tiny preview of it, which is all about simplifying your creative process. So if you have ever been a creative person, or you want to be a creative person, you want to create social media posts for a business, you want to write a book or a screenplay, you want to do a podcast, or any other thing, but you find yourself hit a wall when you think of actually writing the post or creating or like coming up with fresh content, I have got some ideas for you. All right, this is something I feel like I've had to master over the years. Way back when, in my 20s, I used to keep a blog and I would write a new post every single day. So I was always coming up with fresh ideas, and it started to really ingrain in me how to do that. I'm going to share a few tips with you today. Obviously, in writing multiple books now, I'm always on the lookout and I'm always jotting down notes and ideas for my next book and chapters. So I've kind of mastered that side of things. Like, I wouldn't say mastered, but really developed an ability that I'm going to share with you today of how to do it. And then same with this podcast. Like, it's been years now, this podcast, and every week being like, what's something I've learned that I can share? So if you are like, I do not know where to get these ideas, I am going to share with you. If it's just a little hard too, you're like, I have ideas, but when it actually comes to post, I struggle. Been there, am there often, and know how to work through it. So these are all the fun things we get to talk about today over the next 15 minutes or so. First thing that really helps me when it comes to, let's first talk about like the getting ideas and staying inspired, and then we'll talk about what to do when it's hard. And I'll just give like one practice or something for each of these areas that you can start practicing and implementing today. So the first thing is, if you find it hard to think of new ideas, here's something that helps me. Go do something out of your normal routine. Let me tell you a little story. So years ago, I started this practice of doing one new thing every month, and there was no rules as to what it could be. It just had to be something that was a little bit out of my comfort zone and something that was new to me. So I did everything from taking like a Bikram yoga class to going rock climbing with a friend. I kayaked in the Puget Sound in Washington. One time I sat at a bar alone because I had never done that, and I thought, well, might as well try. It's a little scary, but let's see what happens. So it could be anything. I did a sprint triathlon. It wasn't just like physical. It could really be anything. And what I noticed and started to see happen over and over again when I would do these things is I would always get a breakthrough in an idea that I had been working on. If I was trying to think of an article idea, the idea would come like on this during the third mile on the sprint triathlon. Things like that. And so I started to just really value and associate that newness and inspiration comes when you are feeling inspired and doing something new. So it doesn't have to be this big Herculean effort or something you train for 6 months or anything like that. But it can be as simple, maybe you go to a new restaurant around town and you bring a book and read for the afternoon. Maybe you go to a new coffee shop. Maybe you take a new route to work. Maybe you go on a different walk than normal. You can, of course, do the bigger things. And I've done those too, of like a week-long meditation retreat, or I, gave up drinking for a month and then it became, much longer, or just like things that stretch you a lot more because maybe they're just bigger events or bigger amount of time. But it doesn't really matter. I think that it all adds up, and inspired people like feel inspired a lot because they're putting themselves in situations to do that. So I highly recommend, if you are feeling stumped, go and get yourself in some new situations. That's kind of the one thing. Another thing you can do is think about the people that you want to serve and jot down a whole list of every single potential challenge that they're facing. So, if they're trying to get out of their corporate job, what are they feeling day to day? What are their objections to doing it? What do they feel like they can't do yet because? Like, what steps do they need to take? And then every day you can speak to, or every week you can write to, speak to, podcast to one of those topics. And so for me, it's kind of this ebb and flow of like constantly having this list of ideas based on the people I want to serve and what they're facing and what's going to actually help them to the best of my ability and understanding. And on the other side, making sure that I'm someone that inspiration can come and flow through. So what am I doing that's inspiring, that's different, that's fun to me? Because that is often where the breakthroughs come, and you get that like white space when you are doing something new, practicing a new skill, doing something that you don't have to be good at, you're just doing for the fun of doing it for the first time. And then you get the idea and you're like, okay, I can merge these two together. So that's what I would do on like the creation brainstorming side. If you've been stumped, try those, either one or both. And then if it's hard to actually create, so you've like written the month of posts, but then you never actually post them, or maybe you post something and then you take it down immediately, or you think about starting the business, but then you pull back right when you're about to announce it. Here's something that can help for that. So the first thing that I do is I look for misalignment. And that can kind of sound like a vague term, like what is misalignment? But for me, it's whenever I am doing something that contrasts, or thinking something that contrasts with what I say I want. For example, a few years ago, I was running Facebook ads for a program that I was teaching. And I found myself setting up the ads, putting money into the ads, and then secretly hoping that no one would see the ads because I was just embarrassed. I was shy. I mean, it's why I could write this book, because build confidence sharing. I like had to do it. I have, so much to share, but that I had to really, how do I actually do it? So that for me was like a telltale sign something was misaligned, because here I was putting all this work and effort into setting up the ads, but I was on the other side secretly hoping no one would see them. So why would I be spending thousands of dollars on things that I actually didn't want people to see? What I found out is there was some misalignment. There was something about the program and the way I was running it that I needed to shift to feel truer to me, that I could feel confident putting my face out there on ads. And so once I worked with that, I was able to put out ads that I actually wanted people to see, and therefore energetically more people could see, and I could make good use on the dollars I was spending. Does that make sense? Because oftentimes you get not what you say you want, but what you actually want. So if I'm saying, here's these ads, but I'm hoping that no one sees them, what happened in this example is Facebook shut them down. And I did not think that was just a Facebook thing. I thought to myself, I know exactly why this happened, because there's a major 90% part of me that didn't actually want them to be seen anyway. And so weird things like that will happen where maybe it's technically like a platform issue, but you know that there's some underlying energetic piece that you were drawing in with that. So just watch for misalignment. Is there anywhere that your actions and intentions and what you say you want aren't lining up with what you're actually doing and what you deep down want? And then you can shift your business model, your pricing, your audience, your program, your promotions to a way that does feel good and that you can be proud of. And for me, I feel like this is alleviated 80% of the times when I think I should be doing something, but I'm not doing it. It's because there's some underlying misalignment there. So play with that. The other piece of this where you may be creating, but then afraid to actually share or just feeling blocked there, I find is often because we are over indexing on what we think other people are thinking of us. We're thinking that they're thinking of us a lot more than they are. So we're worried about posting something about our new business or program because we think that everyone scrolls social media, stops on our post, judges it for 45 minutes, sends it out to all their friends and family, and they all judge it. And, it's a whole thing. When really what happens is someone sees something probably for 2 seconds. Think about your own patterns here. You're scrolling, you look, you have a thought about it, and you keep scrolling. That's 2 seconds. And I've said this before, but no one's 2 seconds judgment of you is worth you giving up the next 10 or 50 years of living your dream life. It's just not. It's not the same at all. So one practice that I've heard help with this, and you can think through it or you can try it if you want on your own, but it's called the ponytail post. And it's when people will go on social media and they'll post just a picture of their ponytail. And it erases this belief that they have that everyone is paying attention to what they're doing, because what happens is no one even comments. No one says anything. No one says, hey, did you mean to post this? Or like, what are you doing? Are you crazy? Like, this doesn't seem like you. People just move on with their life and they don't really think about it. And so it kind of erases that belief of like, everyone's watching me really closely. I need to make sure I don't have a single mistake. I need to make sure that I, am so overly thoughtful that it removes that like paralysis. You see what I'm saying? So that's something that you can remember or think about when it comes to posting and overthinking what you're putting out there. Okay, so those are just a few things to get you on your journey when it comes to simplifying your creative process and mindset. The first side being, how do you come up with ideas? Start with your audience. What are they asking for? What are they wondering? What are they confused about? And if you're really stuck, go do something new. Find something new that inspires you in a new way, because that is where your breakthrough is waiting. And then on the other side, if you are filled with all the inspiration in the world and yet find yourself stuck on actually sharing the thing, think about, where are you misaligned? Where are your intentions and actions not lining up? And what can you shift so it would feel aligned? And then on the other side, of course, remembering that everyone is so busy with their own lives that their 2-second or 10-second opinion of you is in no way worth you giving up your decade or next several decades of doing what you love and putting yourself out there. Most likely they are not thinking about you, but I mean that in like the best way possible. They see what you post and they go on with their life, and so I don't know, take heart. There's something comforting in that, isn't there? These are just a few of the things that I talk about, as I mentioned, in chapter 9 of my book, Shine Bright, which is available on Amazon and Audible. So if this resonates with you, or you want to find your message, or you want to build confidence sharing and then get into your creative actual output, the whole first part of the book is all about that as well. So definitely check it out. And thank you so much for being here. I will be back next week with one final little mini excerpt all about chapter 10, which is shining in all seasons. So some of us have a harder time shining in seasons of success or failure or transition. So we talk about ways to kind of navigate and shine through each of those seasons. There's good and bad things about each one, and things that make it easier and harder in each one. And it's just the part of life. So we'll talk more about that next week. Make sure you subscribe and tune in if you want to hear that. And thank you again for being here. I'll see you again soon.